In this podcast episode, Clayton Morris discusses a range of pressing topics, from the controversial USS Liberty Incident to the current state of Europe and the peculiarities surrounding Brigitte Macron. Morris, a former television host turned independent journalist, shares his insights and experiences, shedding light on issues that many mainstream media outlets often overlook. The USS Liberty Incident remains one of the most controversial events in U.S. military history. On June 8, 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israeli forces attacked the USS Liberty, a U.S. Navy intelligence ship, resulting in the deaths of 34 crew members and injuries to over 170 others. Morris emphasizes that this attack was not merely a tragic mistake, but rather a calculated move by the Israeli government, which had prior knowledge of the ship's identity. He argues that the U.S. government, particularly the CIA, was complicit in this act, as they had motives to keep the incident under wraps to maintain the U.S.-Israel alliance. Morris points out that the attack on the USS Liberty was part of a broader pattern of U.S. foreign policy, where the government has historically prioritized its geopolitical interests over the lives of its citizens. He believes that the lack of accountability for those responsible for the attack reflects a deeper issue within the military-industrial complex, where the lives of service members are often sacrificed for political gain. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the need for transparency and accountability in government actions, especially when it comes to military engagements. Morris delves into the role of the CIA in the USS Liberty incident, suggesting that the agency had a vested interest in the attack. He argues that the CIA's involvement in orchestrating events to further U.S. interests abroad has been a recurring theme throughout history. The agency's actions, he claims, often lead to tragic outcomes, such as the USS Liberty incident, where American lives were lost due to political maneuvering. He also highlights the broader implications of the CIA's actions, suggesting that the agency's willingness to sacrifice American lives for geopolitical objectives has created a culture of distrust among the public. Morris believes that this distrust is exacerbated by the lack of transparency surrounding events like the USS Liberty attack, which has led to conspiracy theories and skepticism about the government's motives. He calls for a reevaluation of the CIA's role in U.S. foreign policy and advocates for greater oversight to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. Morris shifts the conversation to Europe, discussing the continent's current state and the self-destructive policies that have emerged in recent years. He argues that European nations have ceded their sovereignty to bureaucratic institutions in Brussels, leading to a loss of control over their own affairs. This, he claims, has resulted in widespread discontent among the populace, as citizens feel increasingly disconnected from their governments. He points out that the European Union's policies, particularly regarding immigration and border control, have contributed to social unrest and economic instability. Morris believes that the influx of migrants and the EU's open border policies have strained resources and created tensions within communities. He argues that European leaders must take responsibility for these policies and work towards restoring national sovereignty to address the concerns of their citizens effectively. Morris discusses the impact of globalization on European nations, emphasizing that the interconnectedness of economies has led to a loss of local identity and culture. He argues that globalization has created a homogenized society where local traditions and values are often overshadowed by multinational corporations and global interests. This, he claims, has contributed to a sense of alienation among citizens who feel that their voices are not being heard in the political arena. He also highlights the economic consequences of globalization, noting that many European countries have experienced rising unemployment and economic disparity as a result of outsourcing and the prioritization of global markets over local economies. Morris believes that a reevaluation of globalization is necessary to ensure that the needs of local communities are prioritized and that citizens have a say in the policies that affect their lives. One of the more sensational topics discussed is the controversy surrounding Brigitte Macron, the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. Morris references claims made by various journalists and commentators that suggest Brigitte Macron may not be who she appears to be. He discusses the implications of these claims, suggesting that they reflect broader societal issues regarding gender identity and the expectations placed on public figures. Morris emphasizes that the scrutiny surrounding Brigitte Macron is indicative of a larger conversation about gender and identity in contemporary society. He argues that public figures, particularly women, are often subjected to intense scrutiny and speculation, which can detract from their accomplishments and contributions. This, he believes, highlights the need for a more nuanced understanding of gender and identity in the public sphere. Morris critiques the role of mainstream media in shaping narratives around controversial figures like Brigitte Macron. He argues that the media often perpetuates sensationalism and misinformation, which can lead to public confusion and distrust. He believes that journalists have a responsibility to provide accurate and balanced reporting, rather than succumbing to sensationalist narratives that serve to distract from more pressing issues. He also discusses the impact of social media on the dissemination of information, noting that while it has democratized access to news, it has also led to the spread of misinformation. Morris advocates for responsible journalism that prioritizes truth and accountability, urging media outlets to focus on substantive issues rather than sensational stories that serve to divide the public. Morris expresses concern about the rise of authoritarianism in both Europe and the United States. He argues that governments are increasingly using fear tactics to control the populace, particularly in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. He believes that the erosion of civil liberties and the normalization of surveillance are signs of a troubling trend towards authoritarian governance. He points out that the response to the pandemic has been characterized by a willingness to sacrifice individual freedoms for the sake of public safety. Morris argues that this mindset sets a dangerous precedent as it undermines the principles of democracy and personal autonomy. He calls for a renewed commitment to protecting civil liberties and resisting authoritarian measures that threaten the fabric of society. Morris reflects on the future of journalism in an era of increasing censorship and misinformation. He believes that independent media outlets have a crucial role to play in providing alternative perspectives and holding those in power accountable. He emphasizes the importance of supporting independent journalists who are willing to challenge the status quo and report on issues that mainstream media often overlooks. He also discusses the challenges faced by independent journalists, including financial pressures and the threat of censorship. Morris advocates for greater support for independent media, urging listeners to seek out diverse sources of information and to be critical of the narratives presented by mainstream outlets. He believes that a well-informed public is essential for a healthy democracy. Morris underscores the importance of civic engagement in shaping the future of society. He believes that citizens must take an active role in their communities and hold their elected officials accountable. He encourages listeners to become informed about local issues and to participate in the democratic process, whether through voting, attending town hall meetings, or engaging in grassroots activism. He argues that civic engagement is essential for fostering a sense of community and ensuring that the voices of ordinary citizens are heard. Morris believes that by working together, individuals can effect meaningful change and push back against the forces of authoritarianism and corruption that threaten democracy. Morris emphasizes the need for transparency in government and media. He argues that citizens have a right to know what their government is doing and how their tax dollars are being spent. He believes that transparency is essential for building trust between the government and the public, and for ensuring that elected officials are held accountable for their actions. He calls for greater oversight of government agencies and a commitment to open and honest communication with the public. Morris believes that transparency is crucial for fostering a healthy democracy and for empowering citizens to make informed decisions about the issues that affect their lives. Morris discusses the role of technology in shaping society, particularly in the context of surveillance and privacy. He argues that advancements in technology have the potential to both empower and control individuals, and that it is essential to strike a balance between innovation and ethical considerations. He emphasizes the need for responsible use of technology that prioritizes individual rights and freedoms. He also highlights the importance of digital literacy in an increasingly connected world. Morris believes that individuals must be equipped with the skills to navigate the complexities of the digital landscape and to critically evaluate the information they encounter online. He advocates for education that promotes digital literacy and empowers individuals to engage with technology in a meaningful way.